This is Maestro Cretella with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Calderis Refinery. Our first player today is Texcalibur, the famous Sword of Legend, playing as this Grey Knight Bro Captain. We got team double Bro Captain. The Bro Captain is a tanky melee hero. Right now he's red instead of gray. He can walk right through cover. He can not get suppressed. He can teleport later on, and he has some pretty good weapons, although I think he's a bit lacking in tier 1. Whereas our other Bro Captain, played by Fortune, the eccentric evil genius of Dawn of War 2 and Company of Heroes 2, back in action for some Dawn of War 2 shenanigans. Their opponents, first off, we have Maestro Cretella as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. The Sorcerer is a long-range, spell-casting, disruption, and shenanigans hero. And finally, we have Crazyman, 6435-5. Playing as the Warboss on random, a very, very good hero to random. He is tanky, he stomps, he can disrupt, very good as a melee counter, very good for tying up things, and just very good overall. So it's nice to finally have some time again to do some casting. Worked for 20 days straight without 20 consecutive days without a day off. There were even some times where I barely had hours off that weren't spent like sleeping, or basically if it wasn't eating, sleeping, or shitting, I didn't have time for it. But I got some time now, and with my time, I'm doubling Tex and Fortune. So this is Fortune over here who's getting doubled, and Tex kind of senses it because there's not too many people in his lane, just my heretics that are actually kind of running away from Tex's Bro Captain, because heretics fighting the Bro Captain for the most part is a nice way to bleed heavily as chaos and do nothing to the Grey Knights, except maybe force the Bro Captain off. But in general, you don't really want heretics fighting the Bro Captain unless the Bro Captain is already very low on health. And unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of range fire to focus him down either, and these Chaos Space Marines are just not doing a whole lot. Alright, Chaos Heretics are probably going to need to go. I think I'm going to Doom Blast first and then retreat them. Yep, just to get that burst damage from the Doom Blast. Strike Squad still at 3 out of 3 models. But, oh, and I shoot another Doom Blast. I haven't been using my Doom Bolts well, rather. In part because there's so many areas on this map where there are inclines, and then Doom Bolts tend to screw up whenever you try to shoot them uphill. Now, I'm trying to position my heretics in a way so that Tex will have to retreat through them, but he doesn't seem to be buying the bait. In part, maybe because he's just that smart. And now he's not only not buying the bait, he's also focusing down my Chaos Heretics. So I was trying to be really smart there, just trying to pressure those Strike Squad to retreat and then have to retreat through my heretics. Tex just kind of walks around, and then his Bro Captain right here is just stopping. I remember that. That was really funny. And we all had a great laugh about it. Just the Bro Captain running away, looking like he might get away, and then just stopping here, letting us get the kill. So we have different Grey Knight builds from our Grey Knight players. We have a double Inquisitorial Stormtrooper build from Tex, as well as he has a single Strike Squad, and he's now getting some Interceptors. I've seen the double Inquisitorial Stormtrooper build, or even a triple, basically just when you get multiple Stormtroopers for Grey Knights. I think the reasoning behind that is you're very cheaply putting out more range DPS, which is good for focusing down. It's good for bleeding models off of squads like Shooter Boys or Heretics, just because you're cheaply putting out a range squad. The Stormtroopers have roughly the same range damage, actually, of the Strike Squad, but of course, again, the Stormtroopers are cheaper. They're also less upkeep intensive and bleed less. So you're getting more focus fire, more range support, while your Bro Captain and the Strike Squad kind of just charge forward. The Stormtroopers are the range support, trying not to get shot with them, basically. And then the Strike Squad are actually very versatile because, again, they actually have roughly the same range damage as the Stormtroopers, that they can provide range support, or they can go in and be aggressive. So I have a little Heretic Worship right here, but I've already been revealed because Tex has a Sergeant on his Stormtrooper squad. Now, I think those Stormtroopers, their design is a little problematic, because for health purposes, they're basically a 5-man guardsman squad, since they only have 100 health per model. and they have actually quite a bit of a bunchier formation, and there's only 5 of them, so that also means they die very, very easily in the late game. I lose a Heretic squad and actually come extremely close to losing another one, so some pretty poor plays. Luckily, I lost. Luckily, it was only a Heretic squad that I lost, and still came out with 1 alive. Ooh, but we have some use your choppas, but not until after the Strike Squad got their special attack. Will these Strike Squad lose a model? They gotta lose at least 1. There's 1, maybe even a second, because it's probably not gonna take too many more hits. Yeah, 2 models go down, so that use your choppas, I think, worked out pretty well there. Bleeding 2 Strike Squad models, 83 requisition to reinforce those, so not cheap at all. In fact, you really, really don't want to lose Strike Squad models, even more so than you don't want to lose TAC models or CSM models, because 83 requisition per model is a huge amount in Tier 1. I'm commenting that you see these little lights on the interceptors, you can actually see them through the fog of war for some reason.
The tide of battle turns toward the righteous.
But Tex has gone for interceptors. Pretty good choice. I think they're a unit that have been proving to be pretty effective. Some people have complained that their health is the same as ASM. They're more expensive than ASM, and they can't even disrupt in Tier 1. And those are definitely disadvantages. But the Interceptors definitely have some advantages. I think one of the biggest things is their synergy with the Canticle of Absolution ability. Fortune has that ability, although Tex is really the one who would need it. Since that ability allows them to restore energy very quickly. And when combined with the Justicar in Tier 2, they can actually teleport multiple times in very quick succession for the purpose of disruption. And that can actually be very, very effective as far as countering melee units. And I actually like it. It's pretty creative. Gotta watch out for my Heretics right here. Gonna get shot at by a ton of stuff. I've gone for a Havoc. And the Havoc, it's a tough call. In a way, I feel the Havoc has somewhat limited effectiveness against the Grey Knights, since you have, especially with 2 of them, because I have 2 tanky melee heroes that are not going to be suppressed. The Havoc is also, again, the worst suppression team for actually doing damage. And then we have the fact that the Grey Knight Bro Captain can actually counter setup teams by himself by using We Are the Hammer and actually just charging straight into a weapons team. That actually works. But I'm still just getting it because it's still a way to control all these units, and I've got big Grey Knight blobs, and the Havoc is, in a way, still very essential to Sorcerer play in most matchups, since the Sorcerer plays a very awkward game of control rather than damage, or he plays an awkward game of control and burst damage rather than DPS. And you can't quite focus down tanky melee heroes. You really have to more control them more than you just focus them down. Triple cap now, actually, for the red team, though, and I've already got my Dreadnought out. My Chaos Dreadnought. And I'm getting it out on the field. I'm actually deciding to run my Dreadnought in its vanilla form, which is unusual for me. I usually like to upgrade it to Tzeentch pretty much immediately, and there are good reasons for that. It does do quite a bit more damage to vehicles when you have that Tzeentch missile launcher. The Tzeentch missile launcher does not quite have perfect accuracy against infantry, but it still definitely hits infantry, so I still think it's pretty much a straight upgrade over the autocannon. Although, of course, you do have to pay for it, and I think the reason I'm choosing not to upgrade my Dreadnought yet is actually to save the costs. While I'm probably going for pimping out the Chaos Sorcerer. I've already got Robes of Torment. I'm going for the Rod of Warpfire, so the Robes of Torment going to be very, very good against the Interceptors, as well as really the Bro Captains. That's really need something to control the Bro Captains. The Havoc is really just not adequate for controlling the Bro Captains, so I really need those Robes of Torment. Against 2 Bro Captains, I really don't think I could afford to get a different armor warrior than that. Rhino, out from Texcalibur, bought as a Tier 2 purchase, so we're probably very quickly going to have that upgraded to, well, we're definitely going to have that upgraded to a weapon. Already we see the Las Cannon, probably just in response to seeing this Chaos Dreadnought. And now I'm actually immediately upgrading to the Missile Launcher because I see vehicle plays. No, do I? Yeah, I see the Dreadnought. So I'm actually upgrading to the Tzeentch upgrade under Infiltration, because I want to be able to deal with that Dreadnought, and I'm going to be able to shoot with my Chaos Dreadnought out from infiltration, and this Chaos Dreadnought is probably already a little overextended, especially with the Warboss right now, already upgraded to the Power Claw. That's actually probably going to be a dead Grey Knight Dreadnought, and we have the Beamy Luda, so that's probably going to be a dead Dreadnought right now. Didn't even get to do much. So Fortune very quickly losing a Dreadnought, and yeah, kind of lamenting, to be honest, what poor play that was. And there we go with the Chains of Torment as well as the Canticle of Absolution. Now, Canticle of Absolution is something that... Oh, and I just lost a whole Heretic squad right there to some grenades. But that Canticle of Absolution is really, really something that is proving to be pretty effective. First, because of what I said, the synergy with the Interceptors, where they can jump multiple times once they have their Justicar, which allows them to disrupt melee units, which really prevents melee units from really doing anything. But even more so, it prevents ability usage. So first of all, you can't Doom Blast from Heretics. And then the Sorcerer, of course, is a very, very ability-intensive hero. When you don't have your Sorcerer using abilities, he's basically just a single entity doing roughly about 50 melee DPS or so, which is not that great. He's really about the abilities. Now, the good thing about the double Walker play, tanky melee heroes... Oh, wow, we have... Yeah, those Slugger Boys are not going to win that fight, and this is part of what is so good about those Interceptors with that Canticle of Absolution. But what works about... One of the things for tanky melee heroes, usually the most efficient way to counter them is with a suppression team. Now, that's actually mostly for the tanky melee heroes that can be suppressed. That's not true for the Grey Knight Bro Captain, which is why it's really important that these Grey Knight Bro Captains don't have a heavy melee weapon, because that means they can efficiently be countered by walkers, pretty much any walker, because they can't really do significant damage to a walker, since they don't have a heavy melee weapon. So it went back to a triple cap for Fortune and Tex. So Fortune has been rocking this double Strike Squad build, and I don't know how well it's been working out. I think he's been trying to use that Energy Blast ability that used to be really overpowered for the Strike Squad, but it was since fixed, and he's put a Psy Cannon on both of them, but these Strike Squads, they do only get one Psy Cannon. He's also got the Terminator Librarian. It's been a little while since Fortune has played, so his play might be a little strange. And we also have these double Inquisitorial Stormtroopers with grenades, which has proven to be a pretty effective upgrade for the Stormtroopers. It shoots quite a bit faster than the Heretic grenade launchers. So if you don't react, you need to react a lot more quickly, and the results can be, I'd say, probably just as devastating. But if you notice, we also have entirely new portraits for quite a few units. We have the new portrait for the Bro Captain, new portrait for the Strike Squad, new portrait for the Interceptors, and here also we go with the Purgation. Some beautiful artwork, I think, from the... I don't even actually know, but it's some guy who's been doing some portrait models for the Elite model. So we have Purgations being upgraded with the Psy Cannons, I think because he's been realizing how well these Strike Squads are not working. So it's right now Fortune is, not Fortune, Crazyman is unfortunately getting doubled. I'm on my way, but I can only go so fast as a Chaos player. So Crazyman loses his Death Dread, but I've got a second Dreadnought on the way to make up for it. And here we have Fortune's Bro Captain with the Canticle of Absolution, as well as Psychic Clash and the Nemesis Force Halberd. But I think will we take out this Rhino? Already we have some Commandos from Crazyman and upgraded with their Knob. And now, generally, the Sorcerer struggles a bit against tanky melee heroes, in part because, again, he doesn't really have an efficient way to deal with them. But Double Chaos Dreadnoughts is actually a very efficient way to deal with them. So he does have an efficient way, just a very power-intensive way that will slow down your Tier 2, Tier 3, and... Ooh, we have a Stormtrooper squad that died. And there also goes the Rhino.
We have 200 points remaining.
So 200 points left for the Grey Knights. some losses for Texcalibur, losing a Rhino, losing a Stormtrooper squad, but Tex is in Tier 3 with quite a few resources. And this double dread play is, I think it's actually pretty effective. A dread, of course, you get a lot in one package since you're getting ranged fire, you're getting melee superiority with the heavy melee claws, even when you have ranged weapons on them. And of course you get a vehicle and you get anti-vehicle, so a lot in one package. Of course we are talking about in a very expensive package, so you kind of get what you pay for. Kind of a good reason to actually stay in Tier 2 a little bit longer, although I'm actually still going to make it to Tier 3 in this game. And I also have, now, fully kitting out my Chaos Sorcerer, getting the Tome of Subjugation, already have Rod of Warfire and the Robes of Torment. That Rod of Warfire is a very, very good ability against a lot of these, basically a lot of these Grey Knight squads. The Strike Squad as well as the Interceptors. As long as I can get that hit off, I can do pretty nice damage with the initial Warfire ability, since it is a Plasma Cannon ability, meaning it does bonus damage to heavy infantry units. And additionally, you can also just get the follow-up range damage from these Dreadnoughts, because the Rod of Warfire also does a knockdown. Unfortunately, I'm in a little bit of a precarious position right now. I am being chased down by Purgation squads, as well as Psy Cannon Interceptors, Psy Cannon Strike squads, so I do have some AV to contend with, but it looks like I am going to get myself out of there, put a Havoc behind them. Only 2 men on that Havoc squad. Oh, looks like I take out a Stormtrooper squad from Fortune, and that's his only Stormtrooper squad, so he might not be doing any vehicle plays anytime soon. But there's a lot of focus fire on my Dreadnought. I use the Missile Barrage from the Zenith Missile Launcher to slow things down a bit, but now I also have some Terminators. They also have a Psy Cannon, so my Dreadnought is in a lot of trouble. So is my Havoc. That's probably going to be the end of my Havoc right there. The Havoc teleports out. No, not the Havoc. The Dreadnought teleports out. Unfortunately, my Havoc couldn't do anything because there was just too much heavy melee damage coming from those Paladins. Now, these Paladins are chasing after the looted tank, and the Paladins, it's interesting because I think from the perspective of someone who, from someone with Dawn of War 2 experience, it doesn't sound like the Paladins should by themselves be that effective as anti-vehicle against something as fast as a tank. But there are a lot of things that really work out about them. Just because they're so durable, they can chase for a long time. Usually, a heavy melee unit by itself is usually not enough to deal with. Usually a heavy melee unit is by itself not enough to deal with a vehicle. You need something to follow it up with, because the heavy melee unit will just get kited, focused down. But the Paladins are so durable that they can chase for a really long time. They also have that Psy Cannon, so they can actually do AV damage on approach. Not much, but it's still damage. And then when they actually do hit, they actually just do so much damage. So I actually subjugated the Paladins. I tried to put them behind enemy lines. Unfortunately, I think this is turning out to be not such a good idea, because I don't have quite enough to actually counter these Paladins. Not enough damage. I only have one CSM squad, and this CSM squad, they do have Eternal War. They are level 2, but no aspiring champion. And now I'm also putting my Dreads in a very precarious situation. Definitely going to lose this one right here. Paladins are low on health. I did burn the teleport because that was what I was trying to go for by subjugating them. Subjugate, of course. Subjugated units are now invulnerable, but you can use abilities, so I tried to subjugate these Paladins, burn their teleport, and put them well behind enemy lines, or in this case, my lines, and Crazyman's lines. And I definitely did put the Paladins at a lot of risk, but I don't think I was able to capitalize quite enough, and they were still a little too beastly, and their teleport finally recharges, so they can actually teleport out of there. 400 health, but still 2 models, so I didn't actually get a whole lot out of my subjugation play right there. If I had another CSM squad, or if I also had Chains of Torment ready, I think I had already used it, I would have been able to capitalize a bit better on that. But as it is, I actually ended up kind of screwing myself a bit. I even also ended up screwing Crazyman a bit as well, although not as much as I ended up screwing myself. But Knobs now out for Crazyman, only just now getting their upgrades, but Knobs, even in their default form, are going to win most fights. Certainly against a ranged unit like these strike squads, the knobs are going to do quite well.
What is next then?
So, a great unclean one now on the field for me. And over here, I do scare off that bro captain. He's coming back, though, because he knows, Tex probably knows that as long as I just have Chaos Space Marines here and Heretics right here, the bro captain is going to win, which is why I need to bring my Dread back here. And, well, although the bro captain will not quite win against the green unclean one. And I really tried to just get the cap off. You don't want Chaos Space Marines just staying in melee with the bro captain because they will bleed models. They will not win the fight at all. Certainly not with the Mark of Tzeentch, and probably not even with the Mark of Khorne either. But luckily, the bro captain can't take on these big, heavy melee walkers and super units. Warboss just charging in, now has the heavy armor, making him ridiculously tanky, giving him an extra 900 health, which is pretty amazing considering he starts with less than 900. The Crazyman just charging forward, and with fully upgraded knobs, he should be able to deal reasonably well with these paladins, but it actually seems like he's losing with his knobs. I don't know if Frenzy was on cooldown, if he didn't activate it, but it's actually his knobs retreating, which is kind of surprising. And he actually loses quite a few knobs, or at least by quite a few, I mean 2, and he loses the knob. And that actually does not leave Crazyman in a good position, since he really needed the knobs there in the fight. He couldn't stay in that fight without the knobs, because then he would just have commandos and shooter boys against paladins and this Terminator Librarian, which is not going to work out. So I lost one Dread. I still have my Tzeentch Dread, and I actually have another Chaos Space Marine squad. Why would I have that, you ask? Because that's the best source of damage. That's one of the best sources of damage that I'm going to get against pretty much most of the Grey Knight army, especially Terminators and Paladins. I do, of course, have to worry about all of those units trying to get into melee, but if I use that in combination with the Robes of Torment, my Chaos Space Marines should be able to do some long-range focus fire. Already we see one of the strike squads getting at about half health. I just have to be careful with them. Turning around, and there's, again, the Chains of Torment, and I just need my Chaos Space Marines to start focus firing. They actually should start focus firing these Paladins, and they're doing quite a bit of damage to the Paladins. Probably not enough, though, before the robes of the Chains of Torment wear off, but still quite a bit. So Crazyman still has his knobs in here. The knob's actually doing pretty well. Frenzy is activated. Meanwhile, I have Chaos Space Marines kind of moving back up, just trying to do some DPS. And now the Paladins are in a lot of trouble, and I think those will be dead Paladins. Still taking a lot of range fire. Can't even tell from what. I'm trying to go after them, but actually the Paladins look like they're just about going to get out of there. But that still means that Tex and Fortune are pretty decidedly losing this fight. And we have Paladins. Actually, it was Grey Knight Terminators that have been getting focused down, and here are the Paladins. Oh no, my Great Unclean one is in a little bit of trouble with most of my units forced off the field. Crazyman also has most of his units forced off the field as well, and I also have my Dreadnought getting overextended. Dreadnought should not walk right into those Paladins. Dreadnought can do good damage to the Paladins at range, but definitely don't want it in melee because it will lose right there. Meanwhile, double cap for the blue team. Idling Sorcerer needs to recapture this point, and there he goes. I think I still have my Great Unclean one in a little bit of trouble, so that's why I'm teleporting this. Not teleporting. I turned my Dreadnought around. Nothing got hit by that crack grenade. That's actually one of the things that I think might need to be looked at for the Grey Knights. I'm actually just wondering if they should just change it to work like the ASM Melt-A-Bomb, where it just homes in, since that crack grenade really does not seem to be cutting it. So it's actually going to be a double cap for the blue team. They are low on VPs at 44 VPs. And I'm getting a new Heretic squad out because I need worship and repair support for my army. Looted tank now out for Crazyman, the second one that he brought. tanks in general supposed to be considered pretty good against the Grey Knights. Again, since they don't have a reliable vehicle snare. So then you should, at least in theory, be able to kite pretty much all Grey Knight units with any kind of tank. Although we saw before that Crazyman had lost a looted tank to geez, I'm blanking out. Wow, 3 Strike Squad models go down. Will I even get the last one? Probably not. Yeah. I think I missed the Dark Flames a little bit, and Dark Flame's still not that good against those tougher power armor units. Not even in retreat. But things actually look like they're just about to end in favor of the red team. That's me, Crazyman, and Maestro Cretella. Me and Crazyman. Crazyman and I. So, victory. Tex's excuse. He's playing Grey Knights. Fortune is still rusty. But yeah, a little bit out of it. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.